Number. I'm the assistant curator at the Catalina Island Museum. My job is mainly to focus on exhibits, and this exhibit here is about the art behind the making of the film JAWS from 1975 and how it is essential to the effectiveness of the film and the authenticity of the film. Several years ago, before the new building opened, we were planning on doing an exhibit about JAWS. We had a contact with Joe Alves, the production designer and art director of the movie, and he was going to loan us 12 storyboards from the film. And so we built the exhibit around that. As far as I know, there are no cases in recorded history of anybody being killed by a shark around Catalina Island. There are several species of sharks that live here year-round: white sharks, blue sharks, leopard sharks. Leopard sharks are fun to snorkel with, and I haven't been able to find anything saying that anybody's ever been attacked by one around here. This piece right here is a recreation in fiberglass of one of the animatronic sharks that was used to film the movie. They had to make 3 different animatronic sharks because the salt water really messed with the electronics inside. They had to be able to access the mechanics so they could fix it all the time. This one here is the head part of a 25-foot long great white shark monster that they made for the movie. This was made recently by the KNB EFX studio, the studio that makes the effects for the Walking Dead TV show. So you have the jowls on the side of the face here. This is how you can tell this is the JAWS shark and not just some other great white shark. The reason this shark has these jowls on the side of his face, I think, is because of the mechanics inside of the animatronic shark, so that the jaws could snap open and closed when it was attacking people, eating the guy on the back of the boat, all of those things they needed to do in the movie. This here that you see is it's a reproduction of a scene from the 3rd act of the movie JAWS, where Quint, Brody, and Hooper are hunting the monster shark. This was also created by the same Bex group that made the giant Bruce head sticking out of the wall up front there. They're made from silicone and wire, and the boat is made from wood. The closer you get to these guys, the more real they look, unlike wax figures. The cage and the barrels and these 2 artifacts in the case behind us over here are all real props from the movie JAWS. So we selected these particular props from the collection of this guy that lives in Los Angeles. His name's Chris Kiska. He's an expert on the movie JAWS. These were selected specifically because they represent terrifying traits of the shark and how they used visual objects in the movie to remind you constantly that the shark is ever present. These 2 artifacts are props from the movie. We selected them for the exhibit because they remind you of the power of the shark and also that it's watching you all the time. This here is an oscilloscope, which in the movie was used as part of Hooper's CCTV underwater system, but it couldn't really have been used that way in real life. It's actually a real piece of machinery from a US Navy vessel, and it's extremely rare, but it has this blue screen up at the top that looks like this all-seeing eye, and it's eerie. It's just in the background, but it reminds you the shark's watching. On the wall here are original storyboards from Joe Alves, his collection. He drew these on location during the filming of the 3rd act of the movie. Every day he would draw the action for the next day and make blueprints, post them on the wall in the production office, and then the crew would come by to see what the action for that day was going to be and which of the 3 animatronic sharks they would need to prepare. So these charcoal drawings on the wall back here are the first visual representations of the shark from the book to the movie that Joe Alves drew. He drew these images to present to all of the heads of the departments at Universal Studios to see if they would greenlight the project. They knew that they didn't want it to just be some monster movie recorded in a pool at Universal Studios. Instead of just using Hollywood magic, they came up with all these innovative ways of filmmaking, like filming on an open ocean, which was pretty much unheard of. They wanted to use real people in a small town, in a real small town, as many real locations as possible. And they needed an animatronic shark because it's impossible to train a real great white shark. So Joe Alves and Steven Spielberg knew that they needed the right location to make this look as real as possible. They went to Martha's Vineyard and took some of these photographs of places that they would like to shoot the movie, and it turned out to be the perfect place. Here's a few photos from Joe's personal collection, including a snapshot of Steven Spielberg. After Universal Studios gave the project the green light, Joe Alves had to find somebody to make the animatronic sharks, which they only had in their imagination at that time because it had never been done before. So they remembered this guy named Bob Matty, who was retired from Disney. He was a special effects wizard. He made the giant squid on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in the 50s. And he was in retirement, so they found him and they asked him, can you make this animatronic shark? They explained everything it needed to do. They originally anticipated that it would take 18 months to make the shark that they wanted, but they only had 3 months.